Swerdlow.com, and today is April 5th, 2011, and I'm going to give you the current events of the day and the week. And the most important story that is not on most of the media is about Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Iran. And of course, those countries have always been an issue, and we know that in the recent weeks, Bahrain has had street fighting. They have shot people who have protested against the kingdom there. And what we have recently found out is that Bahrain, in order to solve the issues that they're having with their population, this little tiny island right off the coast of Saudi Arabia, you can see how close it is, Bahrain has actually agreed to relinquish their independence to Saudi Arabia so that Saudi Arabia can actually take over control and protection of Bahrain. Now the difference is Saudi Arabia is already made up of various little sub-kingdoms within the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and there's different rulers who operate under each of these areas, all related to the Saudi family. But in this case, Bahrain would become like a province ruled by another family that owes its loyalty to the Saudis. Now this has become a problem for the Iranians, and as you can see, Iran is just right across the Gulf here from Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. The difference is that Iran is Shiite Muslim, Saudi Arabia is Sunni Muslim. So in effect, it's kind of like the differences between Catholicism and Protestantism when they were always at war with each other and fighting with each other, like in Northern Ireland, for example. And so there is this conflict now that Iran does not want a Sunni-led island in the Gulf opposite its coast. So it's very possible that in the next few weeks and months, we could actually see war or some kind of battle breaking out between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and of course that would then pull in a lot of other Muslim countries and possibly the US and even Israel. Because if you remember last time I spoke to you, I mentioned to you that in Moscow there was a meeting between the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Foreign Minister of Russia Putin, and also the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia that met in Moscow, three groups that you wouldn't suspect being together, and I'm sure they must have been talking about this issue with Bahrain and Saudi Arabia coming up. And for Saudi Arabia to meet with the Israelis, it's very possible they wanted Israeli support against a possible Iranian attack from this deal. Other news that's coming up that you should know about is that the radiation that's now leaking from the Fukushima area of the nuclear power plants here in Japan is now leaking 1 million times what is considered safe amounts, 1 million times into the Pacific Ocean, and depending where those currents go, that could wind up anywhere along the west coast of North America and the Pacific Islands, and who knows where else that radiation will show up. You know, when France exploded or tested its nuclear weapons in the South Pacific back in the 1960s, everyone thought, well, the ocean's so big it could absorb all of that. Well, just a few years ago, 40 years after the nuclear test, that radiation was showing up by Japan. So it didn't dissipate and it just spread across the Pacific Ocean. So we're going to see a couple of years from now, perhaps major issues in the Pacific from this radiation from Japan. And just one other note that I want to talk to you about before I go, and that is, as you know, it is possible in 2012 Donald Trump will be running for president. He's really thinking about it, and just because he says that means he's probably going to do it. And perhaps it'll wind up as a choice between him and Sarah Palin. But the issue that he's bringing up now is, because he's going to consider running, he can prove his birth certificate, where he was born, his social security number, all of that. But Obama has a problem with it, because as we know, even the governor of Hawaii could not find Obama's official birth certificate. They could only find the certification of birth, which anybody could get anywhere just by breathing. You're certified you've been born. But no certificate of live birth, which is the long form, doesn't exist. And a former Air Force colonel, which I wrote about in my news, has tried to find his social security number for Obama, and the social security number that Obama is using starts with 042, and that is a designation for someone born in Connecticut, not Hawaii. Plus, the Social Security office says they never even issued that number. It doesn't exist. So we have a president of the United States with no birth certificate, no Social Security number. No one remembers him from being in Columbia University when he said he was there. Who is he? Is he a setup? What is he designed to do? Perhaps it's his job to dismantle the United States and then put someone else in power and swear to the North American Union. So we will look into that more in detail as the information comes up. And until next time, this is Stewart A. Swerdlow for expansions.com.